Change your mind.
Well, grand, thanks so much.
John, could you tell me about farming in the past?
Well, I can. The past, to go back, we'll say 30, 40 years. We'll say in agriculture, it's back to the binders and thrashing mills and the amount of people coming to do the thrashing and how interesting it was at the time too, like, because it was an advance on the time before that as well, when you only done it with the horses and the mowing machines and the ordinary manual binding. We came with the reaping binder and the tractors and came on like we're coming on today. We're still coming. Forward things are going, but anyway, the past, the amount of work that went into it at that time, when you had to get 16 or 17 men to do the thrashing and to get the seed and load it and bring it to the Goldsmith mill, which is long gone out of date, which is long gone. Now we have the combines and the faster way of doing it. It was harder work. Still there was a certain amount of enjoyment in it. There's still a certain amount of enjoyment in it, even though it's still hard. What other thing I can add to it is, well, I suppose we're producing more now, like, than we did. The machines are bigger, they're able to do more work and less manpower.
Do you have a big farm?
No, I don't. I have what they call a handy size farm. But what I'm short of, I rent. I rent to make it viable. And I suppose I wouldn't have very modern machinery. I have adequate machines for what I'm doing.
Do you have any help on the farm?
Well, I have the casual labour always, and when there's a big lot of work to be done, I have to get in extra hands. I don't have constant people, but I have to have help, yeah. I have to have help to get through the work. When the work increases, like the summertime, or the hay, or the corn, or whatever goes on, we have to have extra help. We most of the time do that. I most of the time do most of it myself.
Was your dad involved in the War of Independence?
That is true, he was, yes. He was in jail in 1921 on hunkers, like. I don't know how many days they served. I don't know how many days were they in hunger strike, but they were in hunger strike in Mountjoy. And he wasn't the only one. There's a good lot of old fellows around here, well, they're gone now, that was in the War of Independence. The 3rd Tipperary Old IRA he was in, 3rd Tipperary Brigade.
What was transport like back then?
Well, it was the transport was depending on the animals more so, and maybe if there were 1 or 2 cars there, the time of the rationing and the petrol and the coupon situation and the shortage of all these things in the war, which ties in with that gear, you wouldn't get the fuel for the few that was there. And anyway, there wasn't too many there anyway, but we depended on the horses and the asses and all that sort of transport to go to town or go wherever you wanted to go. And even the funerals were brought that time, and the coffins were bought by hearse, with the horses pulling the hearse, roughly in the 1930s, And like I said, if you had a horse and trap, you were going well. If you had an ass and trap, you were still going well, but the people with the horse and trap were that little bit better. And the people with the back-to-back had the luxury, where the 2 people sat in front and 2 more behind. And then the bigger people still had the coaches, who would bring 6. The like of the Dunamores and the Perrys of Woodruff. They had something that would bring 6 people at a time. And they were practically covered in as well. They were the luxurious of that year.
Could you tell me about the creamery?
But the creamery was in that time was by horse as well, bringing the churns, and even there were some people kept certain amount of milk to make their own butter. They had their own equipment at home, and they made butter even with the horses, driving the gear around the yard and driving the butter barrels and driving the separators before they had electricity, or before they had and even hadn't the engines to drive it. The horse done the whole lot. The horse done a mighty lot of work in them years. They were depending a lot on it. I'm after forgetting what you asked me there about. What did you say? You asked me.
Could you tell us about the creamery?
Well, the creameries, yes. Well, the creameries, the horse had to bring the milk to the creamery that time. It was all horses was bringing the milk to the creamery. And maybe as they moved on into the 47 or 40s, an odd lorry appeared bringing the milk.
What was life like with no electricity and no running water?
Well, the no electricity didn't seem to be such a penance, because I suppose like everybody else we didn't know better, or we didn't experience better. We made the best of it, and there were quite good equipment there too. Like we had lamps, and we had oil lamps which were very good. We came a long ways from the candle which was there before that. There a lot of people depended on the candles. We had oil lamps, and we had the chilly lamps, the gas. We even had the gas. They were quite good. We had the lanterns to go out the yard and look at the animals, and we didn't know any better, so it was bloody fine, and we got on quite well. If we had to go back to it from electricity, that's the time we'd have the penance. But no, it was quite good. It was quite good. The other question you asked me, I can't remember. Well, what was it like before? Oh, the electricity when it came. No, I forget what you asked me first. I was concentrated on the lamps.
No running water.
Well, the running water. Well, I won't say no running water. There were water running in a lot of places. There were water running with years. There were wells there. And maybe not a great way of pumping it up, but they were there. There wasn't a shortage of water. But as you said, running may not be running everywhere, but the people who hadn't felt to go for it, there were wells there and they went for it, and they spent an awful lot of time at it, I suppose, to go for the water for the animals and to go for the water for the house. And the spring wells were quite good, and they weren't contaminated like now. They were wonderful wells there and wonderful water. Maybe better grade than now even. You have the schemes now, and you mightn't have the same quality, but the water was fine. But it mightn't have been so easy available. Like, we had to go out and hand pump it, maybe pump it up out of manually pumped for a long time until, as you said, there was no electricity here as well. We hadn't any electric motors to pump pumps, but people in bigger places, they had little engines. Way back in, maybe prior to the 30s, in the great houses, they had engines to drive. Not one of them had engines to drive the water from the well up to the top of the house to fill a big tank to supply maybe toilets or different things, which was very few in the time too, like. But it wasn't all a case of no running water. There were people quite equipped at that time too, like. It wasn't such a dead end really.
Tell us about school in Garnavilla.
Well, it was a country school, like there were many others there as well, but this is the one I went to, like Garnavilla. Quite a good school, wonderful scholars. I suppose I would say myself that they were as good as scholars came out of Garnavilla as came out of Cahir and all the bigger schools. They were quite good, they were very good, and the school teachers that were there in them days were from the Chapel Road in Cahir, Miss Quinn. They were one of the Quins in Cahir, and they're nearly all dead now. All the Quins are dead and gone. They lived there on the Chapel Road near Cahir. And that school, I think, was owned by Charteris' estate. They had a claim on that. That was belonged to Colonel Charteris of Cahir. It was under that rule. Like. There was nothing so wrong with it. It was bloody fine. It had about 14 boys and 14 girls. It was split in two halves. The girls at one side and the boys at the other side. And in later years they were all mixed up. They made out that it was better to have them all together. And they had only one teacher then. There were two teachers there one time.